Veterans That Rock.
Hi, welcome. This is Veterans at Rock. This is our third episode. We are a monthly podcast who feature veterans that are into the arts, whether you are painters, actors, musicians, sculptors, photographers, theater. My name is Sailor Scott. I am a musician, and my co host is
My name is Zach Rabbit, and I am also a musician and a jokester.
Jokester and an Air Force veteran. I'm a Navy veteran. Um, Yeah, and tonight's episode is on Kris Kristofferson, who recently passed away, right, Zach?
Yeah, he unfortunately left us September 28th, 2024.
Mm, very unfortunate. I mean, I love this guy. Like, he's such a cool
I
dude.
mean, there's a lot to love. He's an American singer, songwriter. He was an actor, and I know he did some benefits and charitable stuff as well in his lifetime. He's just an all around outstanding person, really.
Yeah. Kris Kristofferson was born in Brownsville, Texas, to his mother, Mary Ann, and his father, Lars Henry Kristofferson, a United States Army Air Corps officer, and later became a general in the United States Air Force. And during Kris Kristofferson's early life, he was always like, I guess, persuaded or encouraged to join the military.
One of the really interesting things about Kris Kristofferson's dad being in the Air Force and where he was born in Brownsville is it's a little bit of an in between, but I mean, you start your life of being in the Air Force in San Antonio, Texas, and Brownsville is actually like all the way down at the bottom, like really close to the border, and anyone who's been as far south as San Antonio can tell you it's a very diverse group of people. There's been other famous stars have come from that area, like Buddy Holly. He lived in Lubbock. Johnny Cash wasn't from there, but he spent a lot of time in Texas. It's a very interesting and musical place. And just wanted to mention that as we were kind of starting to talk about this man and his journey from humble beginnings to military service to then taking over the world with music and art.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, his great his grandfather was in a ma was sorry his grandfather was an officer in the Royal Swedish Army. Like we talked about, his father was in the Air Force. His brother became a naval aviator, so was in the Navy. I believe his brother was in Vietnam. Kris was in the beginning of Vietnam. Um, yeah, he joined the Army in 1960, and became a Ranger, which, I mean, it's a very grueling program.
Yeah, it was actually even crazier. The the program that he was in would eventually become the air cavalry, which they're the guys that flew the helicopters into Vietnam with the troops loaded. And well, cavalry is it was a horse mounted military uh, piece, and they pretty much took a lot of tactics, so that it was their job to kind of know where the enemy was, to scout, and then to also kind of prevent start skirmishes and things like that. So it takes a lot of bravery. It's almost part of like the infantry, but has more of a specialized mission. Definitely special operations, which, knowing that Kris Kristofferson, you went to 1960 when he was when he entered military service. Before that, in the 50s, he was quite a scholar. Graduated from Pomona College, and then he got a grant from the government to go study at Oxford. So by the time he entered service, he had 2 degrees. Uh, couldn't tell you what they are offhand. I don't know if you know, but like that's it's pretty fascinating to me that somebody like that with that kind of brain power was willing to not only serve but also to volunteer during kind of the beginning of now very well historically documented violent time.
Yeah, for sure. Kristofferson, yeah, he also trained. He went to helicopter training in Fort Rucker, in Alabama.
It's
This,
hot there. Alabama.
yeah, I couldn't imagine
Woo, I would-
helicopter
But
school.
I gotta ask, Scott, because I think you'd probably know better than most. Like when you were on your cruises in the Navy, did you guys ever have to PT like up top or anything? Or I'm sure you probably felt the humidity,
Yeah, we
of
never.
the ocean
I mean,
on a hot day.
like when we were on deployments, we didn't do PT because we were just working, you know, 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week. But you know, you had 12 hours off, so you could work out. And then it was kind of cool. Like if there were chill times, we'd be out to sea. There were no flight ops. You could run. They were like, oh, you can do laps on the flight deck if you want to go running, which was fun. Like I did it. It was cool for
I
sure.
have to imagine that. I mean, like you were talking to me about with Johnny Cash, how I would be running around the circles, seeing the big planes flying overhead. I mean, you were kind of doing probably what Christopherson was doing, just like I said, working in those close quarters. I'm sure you probably know humidity like like no other man out there. If you're when you're like close
Yeah.
conjoined and everyone's working hard. That's I couldn't do it. That's why I stayed on the ground, so to speak, with the Air Force.
No, I was also lucky too because we were in the hangar bay in an office. We had air conditioning, so
Nice.
the mechanics and the flight deck people fucking hated us. Like we were just like pampered with AC from a nuclear powered aircraft carrier. Um, but back in whenever
That, ladies and gentlemen, that's why you got to choose your career wisely, or what is it in the Navy again?
Navy's
Rate.
Navy is choose your rate, choose your fate, which is like yeah,
Yeah, that sounds. I like that. That's
it's true
it sounds a little bit easier than the Air Force.
for sure. And like, Kris Kristofferson, he joined, I call him like a go-getter. Like he was like really into it. I mean, he wanted to go fly in Vietnam and the brass, above him were like, "No, we want you to teach English at West, was it English at West Point?"
Yeah, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, because his degrees were in like
Philosophy.
composition and English.
Right, right, right. And but yeah, when he was in college, he really got into this philosopher William Blake, who I think like I guess one of the quotes that he really took to heart from William Blake was, "A man must live as an artist or forever be damned in life and after it." So I could imagine having that in your head and then seeing your heroes like Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson and these guys like he just hit the ground running with like trying to become an artist, you know.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. He really did. And again, it just kind of blows my mind that he was so driven, but like he from what I've kind of seen into the research of the episode, he was very much about he did enjoy his time soldiering, but after he was to him, I guess basically uh, uh, he was chosen not to be a part of a war he volunteered for. He figured out, I guess, just like that quote kind of says, that it was more important to start living the life of an artist if he couldn't, give that bit to his country. And I think he's talked about that later as well, as far as like just his belief. I think there's a quote something like fighting and dying for one's country is kind of a lost cause on most people these days, or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I could see that. I mean, but like yeah, so he's coming from seeing his dad, and like they came over, I guess his dad
Yeah, I mean,
was his dad in World War II
I,
or like post World War II?
post World War II, but I would say it does blow my mind how a lot of that family consistency with military service seems to be what kind of made him realize he could kind of achieve anything. I think I think you actually have a clip that he kind of talks about that. I don't know if you want to show that now. Just it was, I believe he's talking about his experience in Ranger School and flying helicopters.
Yeah, this is a great clip of him talking about that and all that he kind of took from being in.
I think the time that I spent in the Army was real valuable to me because it allowed me the time to find out what I really wanted to be, and also what I didn't want to be, and also and it I was able to support my wife and family at the same time. But it gave me experience like Ranger School was probably the most intense experience I ever went through, and jump school as well. And then flying for 3 years in the Army was it was a good experience, particularly in something like Soldier's Daughter, where I got to play a military man.
Yeah, no, no. With this movie, of course, the burning question is,
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was. Yeah, I like that you show. We both saw the same clip, and I really like that bit because honestly, that's how it felt for me when I started to think about what I wanted to do with the rest of my life after serving in the military. Same kind of a question of or not question, but I was able to really identify who I was and what I wanted and out of life. And I couldn't have done that if I hadn't had those experiences. So it was very interesting to kind of hear my own words through somebody else's mouth before I was even, like 4 foot high.
No, absolutely. He like when you're I feel like it's like a buffer zone. It was a buffer zone for me. Like I didn't succeed in college right away when I was I was trying to, I was a troubled teenager to say the least. Um, and yeah, when um, yeah, I was a troubled teenager and college wasn't working out at the time. And when you join the military, you're kind of secure for 3 or 4 years, depending or however long you decide to stay in for, if you want to decide to stay in, right? And like I was like, I didn't want to make a career out of this. I missed home. I missed New York. I didn't want to travel around too much anymore, and I wanted to see what else I could pursue. And I wanted to really achieve college. Like I made it a point to achieve college since I failed it. And then I had a better understanding of like what I wanted to do in college because I had some extra life experience.
Yeah, I mean that I think that's exactly the kind of opportunities and things that make serving so helpful. Especially I'm kind of a similar boat with I was a little bit of a chip on his shoulder kind of kid that didn't really know where to go after high school. Not that high school was any kind of a major thing for me because I just always had like a thirst for living. Which again I think really kind of makes me just identify more and more with Kris Kristofferson. Just kind of again hearing that little bit. But Taylor Scott, I just find it really interesting that you you said that you had this drive afterwards. Like I just drive to like get through college and get that degree and, you know, become the well-rounded person you are today. But I got to ask, like, how far would you be willing to go to do that again, you know, if you hadn't already done it? Like, would you, like, Kris Kristofferson fly a stolen helicopter onto, like, the dean's lawn, or in this case, the dean being Johnny Cash?
Yeah. Let's hear him talk about this.
Yeah, check this clip out. It's pretty good.
And he said that you know, that I landed on his lawn and in a National Guard helicopter, and that, yeah, he can still see me walking out of the cockpit with a beer in one hand and a tape in the other, and it's simply would be impossible for me to fly a helicopter with a beer. You got to use both hands and both feet, and I never would have done that. But neither John nor June were there. The guy that took care of the gate and the property there came out, and I gave him the thing and took off and got out of there. I was all impressions coming of it. I'm sure I would have been grounded had the National Guard known that I was flying their helicopter. But when John said that, I never contradicted him because I kind of liked his creative memory. And the tape was coming down. There was a thing called "It No Longer Matters," which nobody ever cut. And he later cut Sunday Morning Coming Down right on the television show, and that was pretty exciting. But
There you go, from the man himself. Okay. Yeah, can you believe it? Like, I honestly was floored when I found out that bit of information.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I knew more details of like how he got onto the base, and like, did he like wear fatigues and just like pretend he was still in, like?
Yeah, it's a good questions all, but I mean, it sounds like he's pretty tight-lipped about it, at least from what I get. But I mean, uh, that's one thing that I learned in my own career is like, you got to make a splash somehow, and it definitely appears that he did that. I also saw in research that he signed with someone that he had met in the military, um, who basically became his first distributor, which I thought was really, really interesting. The reason I find that interesting is it just seems like he was an incredible networker, which you know, anybody in the military knows that that's a huge part of it is you know, making friends and meeting new people in the careers, and then, you know, you can all kind of help each other to make the mission happen. And I definitely see that a lot. Not only, I mean, it looks like he worked a lot on that in his military career, but also outside of it too. And I think you see that when he is in like the super groups like the Highwaymen, and then, you know, also just the diverseness of the people he worked with, that, you know, helped him chart 12 times on, you know, the American country billboard.
Yeah, and with Kris Kristofferson coming on the scene in those days, like Waylon Jennings and the Highwaymen and Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash, like Kris Kristofferson's songwriting techniques were more of like the true, authentic, day-to-day stuff of like what he was doing in his, you know, singing about like real stuff in his life, not just like, you know, how we write songs that could be about something, whatever, anything funny, or is it close to home, or are they just, you know what I mean? Like, and here's a little,
Oh yeah.
here's a little clip. Here's a clip of Waylon and then Willie Nelson talking about his songwriting. Share screen.
He brought an intelligence to songwriting that hadn't been there before. And he made everybody sit up and notice
and know that theirs was going to be compared.
It was a little bit deeper look into the human being from Kris's standpoint, from Kris's eyes. And that was what the people needed. That's what the people wanted to hear, because then the people who were out there saying, well, you know, I like country music, but it's a little corny, it's a little that. Guys like Kris come along and added a lot of respectability to that, because they knew that their songs were a little more than your average three-chord country song.
And we've talked a lot, I mean, about, you know, his music. I think we've shown how, you know, the military kind of prepared him for, you know, living that life. And I mean, personally, I can again identify with it, because it's like, after you flying helicopters around God knows where, how do you go back to doing you know, normal day-to-day work? And you know, he continued his helicopter piloting while he, you know, fed his family, trying to make it as a songwriter in Nashville. And finally he broke out into the movies, Hollywood glam for the old Kristofferson, right?
Yeah, he Google search, he's had something like 56 movies.
Yeah, I actually have a clip of the first movie that I saw him in, and I don't know if you want to show that or not, but it was called Convoy from 1973. And it's a little known one, but my dad, he's been a truck driver my whole life, and he showed me this movie, and I never really got it. But you know, you were talking about how he used a lot of real stories and stuff in his music, and I think that's because, like, if you see this character, you know, I could see this same person piloting helicopters or being a taxi driver or anything like that. So yeah, here's Convoy.
Cool.
Now, Beaver, you were trucking with a rubber duck, and I'm about to pull a plug on your drain.
Yeah, Convoy is awesome. I just watched, I got through almost all of it. Hold on, let me fucking stop.
See that devilish smile there? I mean, like, to me, that is Kris Kristofferson. I saw it in every single video I looked up for this. Like, just that charismatic energy, like, blows off the screen there. And I mean, that I always thought it was cool because of that.
Yeah, I mean, he's so talented. He was in the second rendition of Star is Born with Barbra Streisand.
Which is a mind-blowing story in itself as well. I mean, like, how that led to Janis Joplin, and like, just just for Kris Kristofferson, you know.
Yeah, for sure. His yeah, Janis, he wrote that song, Me and Bobby McGee. Um, I mean, he's definitely, what are his it's me and Bobby McGee. Me and Bobby McGee is like one of definitely his biggest song, I feel like, for copyrights. Kris Kristofferson won multiple awards, including Grammys, CMA Awards, and the Country Music Hall of Fame induction. 1976, Best Country Vocal Performance by a duo or group called Lover Please. That was with Rita Coolidge, who was his, I believe, his second wife.
Yeah, that's what's a wild thing too. Is, I mean, he was a family man during all this. He even said in that interview he's in the military because it was a solid way to build his dreams and also, you know, take care and feed his family. And I think when he moved to Nashville, he was on baby number 2 with Bran McGee. I think it was the first longtime girlfriend. But yeah, man moved around.
Yeah, for sure. He won the CMA Awards for writing Sunday Morning Coming Down, which Johnny Cash made it into a hit in 1970. And then he was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2004. I guess in the early 2000s, I was not really too much into country music at those times, but I was into Blade. Wesley Snipes.
Yeah.
And I was like watching Blade. I'm like, that guy looks familiar in the middle of the movie, and it's Kris Kristofferson. I'm like, this guy's a handsome looking dude, man.
Please tell me. Please tell me you have a clip of this.
And yeah, we're gonna show you a Blade clip right now.
Let's do this. Oh my gosh, I can't even believe this.
Hold on.
Off the beaten path, Doctor.
Who are you people?
My name's Abraham Whistler. You've met Blade.
So am I a prisoner here?
Not at all. We just had to take certain precautions before we let you go. You gotta understand, they're everywhere. Vampires. The Hominis Nocturna. We hunt them, you see. Move them from one city to the next, tracking their migrations. They're hard to kill. They tend to regenerate.
And I'm supposed to believe all this.
Well, you already met Mr. Crispy at the hospital. What do you think?
That was awesome.
I just, again, how does he do that in every role in his music? He's just a badass. He looks like a badass and just everything he does. I don't get it, man.
Just a
What a
badass.
cool guy.
He knows that if he lights a cigarette around gasoline, it's not gonna do anything. He's just like, yeah, I'm Kris Kristofferson.
And I guess he can add Vampire Hunter to his list of achievements among everything else.
I mean,
Um,
that's awesome. Put that in your resume.
yeah, but you know what I think is really crazy too. In that same vein of being a badass, I mean, Kris Kristofferson still did a lot of work, and he's probably one of the few artists that I've seen, and definitely that we've talked about so far, that really seems to have cared about the military and the troops in his post-service life, by doing all kinds of like charities and benefits, and in support of like veterans healthcare, veterans education benefits, which is something we're both able to take advantage of. And he also did a Veterans Day concert at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. He donated like the Vietnam Veterans of America. Again, going back to him being, he tried to go, didn't work out for him, unfortunately, but it worked out for us. And veterans of foreign wars and disabled vets. Just a plethora of incredible activity. And yeah, I think to me it seems like he's sort of everything that an artist that's in the military that is going to pursue an art career afterwards could aspire to. And I definitely think they should look into this man and just see all the good that he did, and really personified military values, and was a great person and human being.
Yeah, absolutely. He is definitely some sort of hero to me. I mean, to be able to achieve all of these things, he came from a family that really encouraged him, and it seemed that his family really pushed him to like fulfill, especially the military stuff. Um, and once you're in the military and you feel like you can get out honorably, which is still, that's a task in itself, right? Like,
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean that's anyone who's gone through it knows, I mean they can try as best they can with TAPS courses and stuff like that, but I mean it's something you have to go through. And again, it's because of it's because of vets like Kris Kristofferson we have a lot of that help that we have access to now from like the VA and different agencies that offer mental health or you know any kind of veteran resource.
yeah, absolutely. Makes a civilian life seem not that hard, to some
A
extent.
little more a little more tolerable. Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, like, and I think that's the thing that gets me about him a lot too, is just how do you go? I think I said it earlier. It's hard to go from doing this crazy work to suddenly just being a small fish in a small pond kind of deal. And for someone like him, I love that he bettered his surroundings and basically showed that you can do whatever you want, as long as you're willing to put the work in and the time.
Absolutely. So we're going to sign off from here. We are going to be featuring B. Arthur on April 10th, who is going to be our fourth guest on the show. B. Arthur.
Thank you for being a friend.
Exactly.
Went too far and then got back again. Sorry, I can't help myself. Golden Girls.
What was her name on Golden Girls, Zach?
So she's Dorothy.
That's right.
But interesting. I mean, because B. Arthur kept her service kind of a secret. I mean, she was involved in World War II. So I'm really excited to cover the topic because she's a badass.
She's a devil dog. She's a devil dog. She's a Marine vet. And obviously from the show, she's very tall, and I wouldn't want to mess with her.
It'll be interesting to kind of get a little bit more info from someone who's probably seen plenty of Marines. Like I had some interesting experience with my own Marines, but I mean they don't frequent the Air Force bases as much as the ships, I'm sure.
For sure. Yeah. They're always like hanging around our ships. Well, yeah, that's it. We're gonna be signing off from here. Our next episode is, like I said, April 10th, and I hope everybody has a great month. And let us know what you think. If we've missed anything on Kris Kristofferson, got some facts messed up, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I mean, we really only hit such a small portion, so please leave some stuff in the comments, start a conversation, and maybe there's some information that we don't know that can inspire somebody else or even us to find another vet that we'd love to talk about. If you have any suggestions, also leave them down below. Leave a like, leave a subscribe, share it, all that great stuff. And thank you for watching. It's been a pleasure.
Yes. All right. Peace.